Simon, not that long ago, here, we were talking about Steve Cooper in terms of Crystal Palace.
It was being mooted, wasn't it? Yeah.
It was being mooted. Steve Cooper, widely regarded as a very talented young coach at Swansea, of course. Well, now, today, where are we now? Thursday, the 22nd of July, Steve Cooper finds himself out of work because apparently... by mutual consent, and you never believe that when you read it or hear it, but anyway, by mutual consent, he has gone from Swansea just 2 weeks before the new championship season begins. This guy's highly rated. Highly rated.
By whom?
They were knocking on the door. I've heard from a whole bunch of people in the game, Simon. I mean, he's
you're listening to the FA setup. You're listening to the fact that he was a coach inside in the FA setup. England, right? But if you listen to Swansea fans, they're not quite as enamoured with him.
Well, we'll get to that in a second, but when you look at with England, some of his protégés, Foden, Sancho, Saka, Mount, Sterling, he's worked with some great kids and brought them through.
No. The clubs that they played for, their academy system brought them through and dropped him in the England setup, and he was part and parcel of their education curve. No way can you attribute the development of Jadon Sancho for the 4 or 5 times a year they played in the England setup. That would be the academy development, the kids' ability themselves, and a small contribution from Steve Cooper. So you can't give that to him. He clearly...
Well, he got them to the playoff final last year. Twice.
Failed. They got to twice in 2 years. They got to the playoff semi-final the previous year, got knocked out, right, when they were expected to do better. This year, they weren't quite the side that they were the previous year, but lost again. That makes him a perennial loser.
Oh,
with the greatest respect. Well, it does. You show me a loser, and you show me a good loser, and I'll show you a loser. You're not paid to get somebody into the playoffs, especially a club that's been established in the Premier League for 8 or 9 years and trying to get back there and be a bridesmaid all the time. I'm sure there's an element of harshness about that, but let's be blunt and let's call things for what they are. You're in a playoffs 2 years in a row.
Harsh.
Well, it's a bit brutal. I agree.
I mean, surely the owner's got to, it causes upheaval, but it's so close to a season. Well, it has to. It's bound to.
Well, I think this was an inevitability because I think he wanted to leave for some time because I think there has been an erosion of the talent base, i.e. they do sell their players and they do sell their players to fund their football club going forward rather than maintain the status quo with the owners consistently injecting money in to maintain that. They are balancing their books by depleting their squad. So I do think Steve Cooper had spoken quite at length and wasn't backward about coming forward about the dissatisfaction with the resources that he was having to work with. Hence the reason why
maybe he had a point.
Well, maybe he did. And maybe the mutual consent is more of a mutual consent this time round, which is they're saying to him, we're sick and tired of you moaning. And he's saying to them, I'm sick and tired of you depleting my resources. Tell you what, let's call it quits and we'll go away. Now, that's better. It's not ideal, but it's better than having somebody in a job that's not happy to be there and doesn't want to be working for the environment that he's in. So I would say there's more mutual consent about this than there is the normal veiled mutual consent, which I had with people like Steve Coppell. I want mutual consent. I wanted Steve Coppell to go.
Right.
And mutual consent was a better way of putting it.
One of my mates who works in this industry is a Swansea fan. He texted me and he said, Cooper goes, it's a shame, but he goes amid concern over the future direction of the club. So undoubtedly, Swansea are at a crossroads here, and he has gone. Now, whether he got them to the precipice, Simon, they didn't make the jump, but he got them.
But that's
there.
a very unqualified statement because are we talking about the financial future of this club? Are we talking about the aspirations and ambitions of the owner? What does that mean? Are we talking about the brand of football that they want to play? The style of play they want to play? Well, not really, because if your brand of football is, Palace's brand of football.
I get the impression here that Cooper's been strung along a bit.
Palace's brand of football might not be to everyone's liking, but their financial well-being is fine. So that, comparing and contrasting about the future of a football club in an overriding statement needs to be a little bit more qualified or a little bit more explained. Swansea, to me, look like they're in a total and utter drift. They were in a drift, I suspect, the moment they started to employ that American Bob Bradley and started to go off the reservation with some of their thinking.
Well, come on, Simon, at least they were drifting at the top end of the table.
But that drift has resulted in them now, well, they weren't drifting at the top end of the table, they were beginning to decline. And obviously that decline started to go further and further. And rather than being this wonderful team that alighted the Premier League with a brand of football that Rodgers and Martinez had put into them, and they were coming alive inside the Premier League. No one can play like that in the Premier League. Swansea started that blueprint. And all of a sudden they declined. Laudrup came in, they won the Carling Cup, didn't they?
Yeah.
And everything looked rosy in the garden.
Yeah.
Then a change of ownership. Hugh Edwards changed the ownership structure because an opportunity came his way, and you can't blame him for that. The Americans came in, and all of a sudden, the whole view of the club changed. They made an appointment with Bob Bradley that wasn't fit for purpose for the Premier League, and the decline started to set in there. Then they dropped out of the Premier League. The finances aren't as abundant as they once were. They haven't got back up with parachute payments, and now all of a sudden, Swansea are in a pack of championship clubs that are the have-nots rather than the haves. So what are Swansea now? So that's right about where their direction is because people can't see it.
Well, that's right.
But is it the economic direction or is it simply that they're now accepting that they're a championship club?
Which is sad, though. I mean...
it might be a reality.
Yeah, but I think you're being unnecessarily harsh on him because he has taken them to the very brink of going up. Now, he can't put the boots on and go out and do it himself. I mean, and he's not the only one in a situation like that who's got so close but didn't get the entire distance.
No, listen. I mean, I just think
the timing of this.
I think you're right.
Season's just around the corner.
Well, then the argument could be said that this wasn't new. This didn't suddenly manifest itself as a problem. I have heard, and I'm quite remote from it, that he wasn't happy at Swansea. That Swansea, as a club, were selling players that he wasn't comfortable with. Clearly, he was indexing himself to Crystal Palace. That didn't work out. So it wasn't something that was surprising. It's not. I don't read this and go shock, horror. All of a sudden, where did that come from? Steve Cooper's left Swansea. I thought that was a given. I thought that was a done deal. The only thing that's surprising about it is he hasn't got somewhere else to go. Now, maybe he has got somewhere else to go.
Well,
maybe he's walking out the door and poor old Swansea are going to get done at some compensation. Who knows?
Yeah,
right? But the fact of the matter is it doesn't surprise me. And if I listen to certain Swansea fans, because I used to live in Swansea, so I know that area pretty well, they weren't enamours with the style of play and the brand of football that was coming out of Swansea. Now, style of play, winning football, if they'd got promoted, perhaps they'd have quietened down about the style of play because they'd be back in the Premier League. And it is an achievement to get to 2 playoffs, but to lose in both of them is disappointing, and you have to accept that that's failure.
Yeah. No disrespect at all to Swansea. Why did you live in Swansea?
Oh, God, many years ago. I was the king of the pit ponies down there. I was working for a business for Carphone Warehouse, and they were setting up a concession down in Park Towie Retail Park.
All right.
And I lived in a beautiful place called Bishopston.
All right. Okay,
near
that's
Port
nice.
Onion, near the Mumbles Mile.
One or two
near the
Swansea,
Gower.
Right, okay, I only asked you. One or two Swansea fans getting in touch. Cooper overachieved at Swansea, says Alan. The issue, not results. The owner's not happy. He was touting himself for other jobs. That was
in part what I just said.
Again, another season ticket holder at Swansea. It's hard to go a third season after 2 playoff misses. Mentally tough. Cooper's ambitious. Maybe he's got other things on the agenda.
Yeah.
But I mean, I really do think it's hard. It's hard to point the finger at him, Simon.
I'm not pointing the finger at him, but he's the person responsible as the manager.
He just calls him a serial loser.
No, I call him a perennial loser because you've had 2 playoff finals, which makes you a loser because your job was to win those. Now, there might be reasons why, and there might be an explanation, and there might be a set of explanations or excuses. But when you get to a playoff final, it's a 50-50 shootout, and you have the opportunity to win those games. When you get to a playoff semi-final, and certainly the previous year, they were perceived to be the club that was in the ascendancy, and they didn't get past the playoff semi-final.
Yeah.
So I look at it and say, in real terms, has he done a decent job? I think he's done a really decent job, actually.
Yeah.
I think the fact that Swansea were drifting and looked to me like dead in the water, and he got them to 2 playoffs is one way of looking at it. But once you've got there, you've got to win them because it's no good becoming close. Second is first loser.
I don't think he was trying to lose. He was doing everything he could possibly do to go.
We can all lose, Jim. We can all just turn up and not get the outcome that we want. That's not difficult. It's those that make the difference. That's why you look at Mauricio Pochettino and go, is he ever going to be a winner? Because there's a difference between him and Thomas Tuchel. Thomas Tuchel rocks into Chelsea, boom, wins the Champions League.
Yeah.
Mauricio Pochettino goes to France and loses Ligue 1 to Lille. I don't know. Make of it what you will.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Thursday morning, 10 till 1. On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.